Hello, welcome to Southern Girl in the City, and my name is Dominique Duarte. I'm a singer, actor, blogger who currently lives in Brooklyn, New York. And today's Southern Girl in the City slash blog post will be what to consider after high school. When you graduate high school, it's pretty exciting, but it's also a little bit scary, and the anticipation of graduation can sometimes bring some anxiety. Um, I think you probably want to start planning 2 years before you graduate. Definitely, I'd say junior year, you need to start considering what are you going to do after college. I think sometimes people wait until the very last minute to make a decision, and it doesn't work out too well. So make sure your junior year of high school that you're starting to plan. So the first thing you want to consider is going to college or going to a trade school. To be honest, I think a trade school is a better option. Because I think that people who study trades, I think, have a better financial. I think they have a better life financially. Um, I think that they have more consistency. I think that they do trades that not everyone can do. So not everybody can be an electrician. Not everybody can do hair very well. It's a skill. It's a specific skill, and it's just not. I think it's better when you are doing a trade. Um, Now, if you know you want to do something that requires a degree, then please go to college. I think a bachelor's degree opens up many doors. I think, to be frank, a lot of jobs now really do require a bachelor's degree. It's not really optional. However, when you go to trade school, you know what you want to do. Usually, like, you have an idea of what you want to do. And when you go to college, maybe a lot of people don't always know what they want to do. Um, and then maybe you get a year or two to figure it out. But if you know that you're going to trade school, then you're picking a career, and that is going to have to be your career unless you decide to go back to school. Because it's going to be harder to get a job or a decent job without a diploma, a degree. It's not impossible, but it's just harder. I worked with some of my coworkers in catering who said that they didn't finish college, and it does limit your opportunities. I mean, even though I feel like, oh, I'm frustrated because I've had so many jobs, the thing about it is a lot of those job opportunities opened because I had a degree. So having a degree does still make a difference. A lot of people think, oh, it doesn't make a difference. It does, because at this point, a bachelor's degree is the equivalent of a high school diploma. So then, if you only have a high school diploma, it really limits what you can do. In it just does. Like, I mean, unless you decide you want to be a business owner, which some people do. If you want to be a business owner, entrepreneur, solid. The thing about it is, being an entrepreneur doesn't happen immediately. You don't always see fruit. So if you're thinking of being an entrepreneur, a great idea would be to start before you graduate high school. So maybe you should start sophomore, junior year, having your own business, and then maybe by the time you graduate, you'll be able to sustain yourself. I'm surprised that I was listening to Dave Ramsey, and there was a kid on there who was 16, and he already had his own business while he was in high school. So I'm like, if you want to have your own business, by all means, start as soon as possible. Just don't wait till the last minute. Um, College is definitely getting a lot of more backlash, I think, because of the student loans. I mean, try to go to a college that doesn't require you to take student loans. I know that's not that easy. Um, if you have a high GPA and a high ACT, you probably will get a full ride if you apply for the right scholarships. If you have a high GPA and a okay ACT, like I did, you might get a 4-year scholarship, but it won't be a full ride. So mine covered my tuition, but didn't cover my room and board. So that's how I ended up taking out student loans. If you're going to take out student loans, please make sure you get a decent job right out of college, which isn't guaranteed. Because here we are 12 years since I graduated college and I still haven't paid on my student loans. And it wasn't intentional, but it just has happened. You can make a lot of plans, but sometimes a plan just don't always go according to plan. But going to college is, I do think it's kind of a rite of passage to some extent. I do think that when you go to college, it prepares you for adulthood. I think that a lot of the times when you are going right into the workforce, I think it could set you up for failure because a lot of the times people don't have the skills to have a job. Like they don't have the responsibility, they don't have the like you after your first semester of college, you learn real quick you need to show up to class. Now some people don't learn that and they flunk out. However, that skill of being on time, because there were some professors where you had to be on time, so like there were certain things, skills like responsibility skills that you learn in college, you can have trial and error, but when you're in the workforce, you just gonna get fired. So that's, so it's just like college is kind of like a training wheels. However, there is a lot of money involved. I would suggest going to a community college first. Community college, they tend to have a scholarship that covers your first couple of years, and then transfer to a state university. Um, if you're gonna go to a 4 year college, start applying for scholarships as soon as possible. I think one of my cousins got a full ride because he applied so early. Like I think during his junior senior year, he was applying, so he got a full ride to a Ivy League school. So it's not impossible to get a full ride. It's not impossible to get your college paid for, but you have to do it in advance. You cannot wait until May of your senior year and say, "Oh, I'm going to start applying for scholarships." It's a little late. Like it's February now, so this would be a great time for you to start applying for scholarships. Actually, it would have been better if you had applied last year, but this is still not a bad time. February is still good. February is still good because most people probably have gotten their college acceptance letters at this point. So, okay. I think you'll be okay. February, please start now, today. Apply for scholarships because having student loans, I wouldn't suggest it. I would not suggest it for anybody. You just don't know what your post graduation life is going to look like. And I know at 18, it just seems like, well, when I get my big girl job or when I get my grown up job, then I'll just be able to pay it off. So it's not a big deal. It just don't always happen like that. Like now, unless you know you want to be in medicine or law, that's a little different. But if you are unsure what you want to do, it's even more reason to go to a community college. The next thing I think people need to consider, let's say you don't want to go to college, let's say you don't want to go to a trade school, enter the workforce. Entering the workforce, that option a lot of people have done. Went straight into it and have been working in the workforce ever since they graduated high school. The only con is that it might limit your opportunities unless you have an entrepreneur type spirit. I think it is going to limit your opportunities because at least at a trade school, you are able to get a skill set that is unique. That makes you stand out even if you don't have a bachelor's. Or if you get a bachelor's degree, well, at least you have a degree. But going into the workforce is risky. It's risky. I have worked with a lot of, when I first graduated college and I started working at Cracker Barrel, I think a lot of the people I worked with were right out of high school. And I think it does teach you responsibility. It's just you're learning on the job. And for 18-year-old right out of high school, that could be a significant rude awakening. Because if you mess up, you could get fired. And like in college, if you mess up, okay, you get a poor grade. But in the real world, you mess up, you get fired. So The thing is if you're going to go into the workforce, I mean, the only thing you're going to really be able to work, only places you'll be able to work are retail, customer service type jobs, because you don't have any certifications on anything, so you can't really get a job in anything else. So if you want to join the workforce, I think a good idea would be, if you are unsure of what you want to do, I say maybe get a full-time, part-time customer service job, or a couple of part-time customer service, or maybe being a TA or something. Not a TA though, because I think a bachelor's is required. At least in New York State it is, but in Tennessee it might be a different story. But maybe working with kids. There were some people that I have worked with at after school programs who were right out of high school or were in high school. So it is possible to get a job working with children in high school. So that could be a good part-time job. But I do think that if you took a year and just got in the workforce before you went to college or while you were going to college, I think that's great. I actually think my grades were better when I had a job. So if you want to go into the workforce while you're going to school, I think that's a good combo. Or if you want to just go into the workforce for a couple of years and then go to college once you figured out what you want to do, I think that could save you a lot of money. Because I do think a lot of people go to college because they feel this pressure to do it. And I don't necessarily think college is for everyone. It's not. College isn't even so much about being super smart, and a lot of people think that's what it is. But a lot of it is managing your time, being on time, taking care of your responsibilities, and doing your assignments. If the professor doesn't bring it up 5 million times, they bring it up once or twice, and you got to know that it's due on that date, and you have to turn it in. And I think that kills a lot of college students. I guarantee you, most of the time when people fail out of college, it's not because the work is too hard. It's because they do not have the skills to be a successful student. And yes, sometimes the work's a little challenging, but college really is about time management. And it's about taking responsibility for when assignments are due and turning them in. A lot of the reason people fail is because they're not turning in their assignments. Or this was a big one that I remember that caught a lot of my classmates, was that they didn't show up to class. And there were some professors that had a policy that if you missed a certain amount of classes, you got an automatic F. So a lot of people that flunk out of college is not because they weren't smart. It's because they were not ready for the responsibility of being a college student. So maybe by being in the workforce, even if you might get fired by a couple of bosses, maybe it will teach you the responsibility that you need to take college more seriously. I just think some people at 17, 18 are really immature. I do think a lot of people are very mature, but usually that happens because maybe they were put in a situation where they were required to be mature, like they had some type of illness, or they had to raise their siblings, or they had a parent who wasn't that involved and they had to take responsibility. Yes, there are teenagers who are very, very responsible, but then there are some who aren't. And sometimes time is all that's going to bring that maturity. Like for some people, they may be mature for the rest of their life, immature for the rest of their life. But then there's some people who they kind of have to learn. College is a really great place to learn that. However, I think even if you do poorly in the workforce for a year, well, at least you're living with your parents, so it's not like you're having to pay rent. However, I know some people move out on their own immediately. So yeah, that would be the second thing to consider, just going straight into the workforce. I'm trying to think, what else could you do job-wise? I mean, I would say you could do internships, but a lot of the internships require that you are working towards a degree. So it just limits you a little bit. But I would say if you want to get into the workforce and save a little money and maybe save some money so that you can go to college the following year, I don't think it's a bad idea, especially if you don't know what you want to do. I do kind of think it's a little bit of a waste to go to college when you don't know what you want to do. Because you could take gen ed classes, but to be honest, when I studied music, I had to take music classes the entire 4 years. It wasn't like I could just take gen ed only. So if you would decided your second year that you want to be a nurse, that's going to add another year to your college. Even though you did all the gen eds, you now have to do 3 or 4 years of nursing because of all the requirements. So yeah, I'd say if you don't know what you want to do, I think you should maybe get a job, a full-time job, and then, or part-time job, or a couple part-time jobs, and then just try to learn responsibility. And then the next thing is becoming an entrepreneur. I kind of mentioned this earlier, but let's say you want to start your own business. You know what you're talented at, you know what your skill sets are. If you want to start your own business, well, start before high school. Start before you graduate high school. I think that's best. If you're a senior right now, this would be a great time to start brainstorming and trying to start taking action towards that goal of being an entrepreneur. So that maybe by the time you graduate, you have a little cash flow coming in. Being an entrepreneur is no joke. I think that a lot of the times it's downplayed a lot. Like, oh, well, I don't want to work a 9 to 5 and I don't want to work for anyone else. But when you work for yourself, you really don't have a day off. So it's like you also have to have a level of, once again, responsibility, doing what you say you're going to do when you're going to do it. You really have to structure your day like a 9 to 5. And that's not easy for a lot of people because most people are not that disciplined. But if you see that, okay, you have a skill and a talent that you know is really good, and you know that you could start your own business, then please start your own business. If you want to be a piano teacher, you could start that now. Start going to music stores and music schools and try to get students. And you by the end of the spring semester, you could have already started your business. I think that's a really good business to have while you're in school, if you are in school. But being an entrepreneur, hey, if you can do it, do it. But talk to people who have their own business. I talked to a person who had their own business when I started mine. Definitely speaking with people who have their own businesses gives you insight. Also, you need to learn about taxes, because if you are an entrepreneur, you're going to have to put away at least 10% of your money into a savings account so that when taxes roll around, that you are not owing the government. Because you will owe the government if you have your own business. You will owe the government if you have your own business. So you need to prepare for that. So put away a percentage. 10 might be too small. I think it might be 20. But anyway, put away a percentage. That way, when the taxes roll around, you're already prepared. Just move that from the savings to the checkings. There you go. I don't have to get on a payment plan with the IRS, because I do not suggest getting on a payment plan with the IRS. Please be able to pay them people immediately. Do not get on a payment plan with them. It's not advised. All right. And then the last thing you can think about, let's say you don't want to do college, you don't want to get in the workforce, and you don't have a thought or an idea for your own business. Then this is one that is kind of controversial, but consider joining the military. Why? Because it teaches you discipline. They pay for your college, so you can get a degree. You get to travel, and a lot of 18-year-olds probably haven't traveled unless they came from a wealthy family. And you have a built-in community. Because let me tell you something. After college, it's hard to make a community. I don't know what it's like to be a high school student who didn't go to college. So I don't know what that is like. But I guarantee more than likely it's probably challenging to make friends. Because a lot of the times people went away to college and maybe you and a few others didn't. And you probably had a harder time making friends. I don't know because it's not my experience. But I would think it probably would have gone from you hanging out with a bunch of people in high school to then not really those people going away. So then you're not having those connections. I think the military, living on a base, kind of gives you a community. I think joining the military is also something that you will always have veterans benefits if as long as you make it all the way through and you're not discharged or you're not dishonorably discharged. It can set you up. You can make a career out of it. You can be in the military for 20 years and retire. You can decide to only do one tour. I think it's called a tour. You only do one set of service. I don't know if that's the right terms. I knew the terms at one point when I was trying to get in the Navy. But anyway, I actually had a high school friend who I remember she said she was joining the Navy. And I was like, you're joining the Navy? And she's still in the Navy. So I'm like, you could make a career out of it. I think she's an officer now. So I'm like, yeah. And then there's another high school friend who I don't know if she joined right out of high school like that other friend, but I think she might have joined after college. But anyway, I know two women who I went to high school with who are in the Navy. Actually, and then I know one who was in the Army. So I'm like, I actually have more female friends than male friends in the military. Interesting. But yeah, I think being in the military, especially right out of high school, if you are not sure what you want to do and you don't want to spend no money and take out any student loans and you don't have an interest, because I think a lot of the times what catches a lot of high school students is that they don't know what they want to do. And there's nothing wrong with that. I do think we put a lot of pressure on teenagers to know what they want to do for the rest of their life at age 18. That's a lot of pressure. I don't really think you have to know. And if you don't know, I think the option would be get a job, get in the military, go to trade school. But do not, and I repeat, do not take out student loans to go to college when you don't know what you want to do. I just think, and I know that that's something that people always said, well, just do it. I think that was fine when college was more affordable, but now it's so expensive, and this is even the state school that is expensive. It's so expensive that at this point, it's a liability if you don't know what you want to do. Because when you know what you want to do, I think it makes you a better student. It makes you more engaged in what you're trying to do. When you are unsure, it maybe makes you not take it as seriously. I could be different from everyone, but that's why community college is a good start. Because if you don't know what you want to do, community college is the best option, I think. But if you don't know what you want to do, I think the military is also great. Because it'll teach you some discipline that will get you through life. If you say that you were in the military, people take you seriously. They know you don't play. So it might help you be able to get jobs in the future. Just the fact that you served your country. So I think that graduating high school can be, like I said, very exciting, but it can also be overwhelming, especially when you are unsure of what you want to do. When you know what you want to do, it just helps a lot. Like this friend, she just knew she wanted to join the Navy, and she did it, and now she's still in the Navy. So her and her husband are in the Navy. So I mean, a lot of people don't think about the military. I didn't, and that's why I was so surprised when my friend in class told me she was going to the military, because I was just like, huh? Especially because she was like a really girly girl, so I just wasn't thinking. Because I mean, back then, even in 2007, 2008, there's definitely more of a gender stereotype. But I just wasn't. She wasn't who I pictured joining the military. But she ended up joining, and she ended up loving it. And like, I think that it teaches men and women discipline. And I just think discipline is definitely an area that I think that the Gen Z and maybe even a little bit of the millennial generation struggles with, including myself. I feel like I'm pretty disciplined in a lot of areas, but I feel like conflict resolution is just something I struggle with, and I think that maybe in the military you maybe learn how to deal with conflict resolution a little bit better. And I just think it helps you become a more well-rounded human. Because everybody thinks that just because you're in the military, everyone's going off to war. So whatever job you are assigned to in the military is the job you end up doing. So it does kind of help if you have a bachelor's, but they also pay for you to go to school. So you can eventually become an officer. I think that's what happened with her. She ended up going to college. Now she's an officer because she started in the Navy in high school, right out of high school, and then she ended up getting her degree, and now she's an officer. So I tried to join the military. It's no joke. Like, I'm not gonna lie. Like, they are going to medical test you like no one's business. It's the medical examination is so thorough. And the only thing about military is if you have certain things like I think eczema as well as diabetes. If you have any pre-existing conditions, you're not gonna be able to join. That was something I had to learn because people were like, well, that person served and they have diabetes. Nah, they got diabetes after they were in the military. So if you develop something after you serve, that's different. But if you're coming into the military, they expect your behind to have a clear bill of health. You cannot have anything wrong with you. Which was something I still don't think a lot of people know. Unless you were in the military or tried to get in the military, I do not think people understand how hard it is medically to get in there. So that's what ruined me. Medically, I couldn't get in. Because I failed my hearing exam. So, I mean, I can hear. But for some reason, I failed it twice. and once you fail it twice, they can't really do anything. So, because people were like, well, why didn't you try again? I was like, no, you can't try again. Once you have flunked something medically, it's really hard for you to try again. They give you 2 chances. And if you didn't pass, then... I even went to a medical center to get another test. And I passed the test at the medical center. But even with that letter, still nothing. Crickets. So, research about the military. I mean, once again, it's something that's not for everyone. I won't even say it's a last resort. I think that maybe people need to look more into the military because it does offer a lot of benefits. That I think that so many of us are just, I'm going to college, I'm going to college, I'm going to college, I'm going to college. And it's like, I don't think it's for everyone. And I think that the military, a lot of people love it. Some people hate it, but a lot of people love it. And I think that you could be blocking your blessing by not even considering it. Because I didn't consider it. And I mean, there's a part of me that almost wishes that had at 18, had I maybe tried to join, I probably wouldn't have flunked my hearing exam. And I think that it might have set me up better for life. I think I would be more disciplined. I just think I would be more not as all over the place. Because that's the thing, I have a degree, but even with having the discipline of getting my bachelor's, I just struggle with, I think, the life skills part still a little bit. Yeah. And I think either entering the workforce, joining the military, or going to trade school, I just think, because usually if you go to trade school, you can also have a job. So you're getting a little bit of both. You're in school, but you're also working. So I think that that's a good combination too. And I just think that when you know a trade, you're able to just, you do something that most people can't do. And so that's what makes you valuable. I mean, and that's the one thing that I think people don't understand. So there's always this argument that teachers aren't paid enough. Yes, I agree that teachers aren't paid enough. However, what makes your salary increase is how much value are you adding to the economy. Meaning, how many people can do what you can do? And it ain't that many people that can be an electrician. But there's a whole lot of people who can get a bachelor's degree and be a teacher. And that doesn't mean that they're good at it. Not all the time. However, there are so many people that can be teachers because all you need is a bachelor's degree to be a teacher. That's it. That means there are so many people who can do that, which is why the salary is not as high. So you have these athletes, right? They're making millions, and people are like, well, what about the other jobs? It's like, but how many people can train to be in the NBA? Most people can't do that. Like, most people cannot, which is why they get paid more. They are sacrificing their time, and I get it. Teachers sacrifice their time too. I'm not saying that teaching is not valuable. It is valuable. But in the economy of America, you have to do something that not many other people can do to provide a value. So engineers, they get paid pretty well because not everybody can be an engineer. Like, not everybody can be a doctor. Not everybody can be a lawyer. So they're going to get paid more because they have a skill, they have a service that not a lot of people can do. Now, with teaching, a lot of people can get a bachelor's degree in teaching, but doesn't mean that they're necessarily great at it. Debatable. But some of them are phenomenal. Yeah, it'd be great if they could get paid more. But it's a competition thing in the economy. It's really about competition. What value are you adding to the economy? Can you do something that other people can't do? And that gives you a higher paycheck. And a lot of the times in teaching, there's just so many people. I mean, you go to one school, how many teachers are there? There's probably like 50 or 60 teachers in one school. They're not 50 or 60 engineers in, like, maybe there are, I don't know. But usually, well, you know how many schools there are though? I mean, we're talking you have between 30 to 50 teachers per school. That's including charter, private, and public schools. That's a lot of people who can do the same thing. Doesn't mean that they all do it well. I know that. But if making a lot of money is something that is important to you as a person who's in high school now, you have to think, what service can I provide that is going to make me competitive in the job market? Because being a teacher doesn't make you competitive in the job market. And I'm not saying that as a diss. Like, if you want to be a teacher, that's fine. But when it comes to financially, you are never going to make that much money because there are too many people who have the qualification to do the job. Doesn't mean that they're amazing at it. Doesn't mean that you don't sacrifice. Doesn't mean that your job is easy, because I know it's not, because I've done it. It's a hard job. There is no question that teaching is hard, and it requires a lot of sacrifice. But there are so many people who do it. Doesn't mean they're doing it well, but there's so many people who do it. And it took me forever to understand that concept, that money has nothing to do with how valuable your job is. Every job in its own way is valuable. However, economically, competitively, are you able to give something that other people can't give? And currently, there are so many teachers. Teacher. And now we got a shortage. But even still, almost everyone I know, I would say a majority of the people I know are teachers. How many? I think I got one friend who's a nurse practitioner. I have a few friends who are lawyers. I have one cousin that is in commercial real estate and another cousin who's heading in that direction. But like, how many people are in commercial real estate? That's not something that's common. And then how many people are teaching? It's a lot of people. So it's not because they're trying to be dismissive of teachers or not valuing their job. It's that in a job market, you have to have a skill that is so unique to you to contribute to the economy. And yes, every teacher does have their own style and they do bring their own thing to the classroom, and that's wonderful. But from a practical standpoint, you got a lot of competition. Doesn't necessarily mean it's a great competition, but you have a lot of competition if you want to be a teacher. If you are concerned about making a decent living, you might not want to be a teacher. If you love kids, there are other ways to work with them. Be a physical therapist. Have you thought of that? You can be a physical therapist and work with kids. And that's another skill that not a lot of people have. A respiratory therapist. That's not a skill that a lot of people have. So it's like, I think I only know about 3 people who I know who are respiratory therapists. But how many teachers do I know? Several. So it's not like a dig to the education system. Yeah, I do think there does need to be more money put into the education system, because I do think other countries value teaching more. They value education more. And I think education in America is put on the back burner. I do agree they should be paid more. That's not a question. However, now that I understand how the economy works, I'm like, oh, that's why they don't get paid very much. Because it's too many people who can do the same skill. Doesn't mean they do it well. Believe me, I know. But, yeah, it's something to think about. I think a lot of people think, well, education's the easy one. It's not. And you don't get paid what you should. You also are dealing with a lot of dynamics, and when I say you need such a strong sense of self, it's not even funny. You need a strong sense of self. It's not even funny. Like, you have to know who you are and whose you are in order to be in education. Maybe consider being a college professor. By the way, I don't think they make very much money either. So, education. Think strongly about that one. I wouldn't do it. I really wouldn't. It's too many people who want to quit. It's too many people who are amazing at their job and still want to quit, okay? Like, I wouldn't suggest it. Please think outside of the box. Think outside of the box. When it comes to picking a major, when it comes to figuring out what you want to do, just think outside of the box. Try to find things that you might be good at that will set you apart from the other candidates. That is all. This has been Southern Girl in the City, and I hope you guys have a lovely day. High schoolers, keep your heads up. Graduation's coming soon, and I hope this helps.